You're talking right now inside your head in words. Maybe you're even hearing this sentence as a voice in your mind as you read it. Language is so built into us that we can't even think without it. But here's the question that should keep you up at night. Before language existed, how did the first human being invent the very first word? They couldn't read about it. They couldn't Google it. They couldn't even ask someone. Because there was nobody who knew. Language invented itself. And the story of how is so strange, so physical, so accidental, that once you understand it, the next conversation you have will feel completely different. Let's go back to before words existed. About 300,000 years ago, Homo sapiens walked the earth. They were smart. They used tools. They made fire. They had social bonds. But they had no language, not one word. They communicated the way chimps do. Grunts, gestures, facial expressions, touch. They could warn each other about danger. They could beg for food, express anger, signal attraction. But they couldn't do the one thing that would change everything. They couldn't talk about things that weren't right in front of them. They couldn't plan. They couldn't warn about future danger. They couldn't share knowledge across time. Every generation started from zero. Now, other animals communicate too. Don't get it wrong. Bees actually do an elaborate dance to tell their hive exactly where flowers are. Vervet monkeys have different alarm calls for eagles versus snakes versus leopards. But none of them can do this. None of them can talk about yesterday, or invent a story, or teach through metaphor. Language isn't just communication. It's the ability to represent things that don't exist right now. And something about the human brain, uniquely, evolved to do exactly that. It started with an accident, a physical one. Around 300,000 years ago, the human voice box, the larynx, slowly dropped lower in the throat. In chimps, the larynx sits high, perfect for breathing and swallowing at the same time, but bad for complex sounds. When the human larynx dropped, it created a much larger resonating chamber above it. Suddenly, humans could make sounds that no other animal on Earth could produce. Vowels, consonants, the building blocks of language. But, and this is critical, it came with a terrible trade-off. Humans became the only mammals on Earth who can choke to death on food, evolution decided. The ability to make complex sounds was worth the risk of choking. It's the biological equivalent of trading fire safety for a better singing voice. But the throat alone wasn't enough. The brain had to catch up. Two specific regions of the human brain expanded dramatically, Broca's area and Wernicke's area. Broca's area controls the production of speech, the mechanics of forming words. Wernicke's area handles understanding, making meaning out of sound. Without both, you have noise. With both, you have meaning. But here's the strange part. Even with the upgraded throat and the upgraded brain, language still didn't fully appear. Something else had to happen first. Something social. Here's the theory that changed everything. Robin Dunbar's social brain hypothesis. Dunbar noticed something strange. Brain size in primates directly correlates with the size of their social groups. The bigger the brain, the more social relationships the animal can manage. Chimps maintain relationships through physical grooming. They pick bugs off each other, it's intimate and it works. But grooming takes time. A chimp can only groom, and therefore genuinely bond with about 50 other chimps. Human social groups kept getting bigger. Maybe 150 people. There isn't enough time in the day to physically groom 150 people. Dunbar's radical idea, language evolved as vocal grooming. Instead of physically grooming one person at a time, you could talk, and talking could reach many people at once. Language was, at its core, social technology, a way to maintain more relationships than biology allowed. And Dunbar has one more observation that will either make you laugh or make you uncomfortable. He analyzed thousands of human conversations across different cultures. About 65% of all human conversation, across every culture studied, is social information about other people. Who did what to whom, who's reliable, who cheated, who helped. We call it gossip, but it's actually social intelligence. It's how humans figured out who to trust, who to avoid, who to cooperate with. The first words weren't poetry. They were probably, "Watch out for that guy." Language made it possible to manage reputation. yours and everyone else's. For tens of thousands of years, language developed slowly, useful, but limited. Then, approximately 70,000 years ago, something happened that anthropologists call the cognitive revolution. Humans began to do something completely new. They started making things up. Cave paintings appeared. Jewelry appeared. Burial rituals appeared. Trade across hundreds of miles appeared. Historian Yuval Noah Harari calls this the moment humans gained the ability to believe in shared fictions. A shared fiction is something that doesn't exist in reality, but everyone agrees to believe in it. Money is a shared fiction. Nations are shared fictions. Laws are shared fictions. And language is the only thing that makes shared fictions possible. Without language, a group of 100 strangers cannot cooperate. With language, they can build a cathedral, or an army, or a civilization. Here's a moment nobody talks about enough. There was a first story somewhere, sometime around 70,000 years ago. A human opened their mouth and told the first narrative. Not a warning about a predator, not a grunt. An actual story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. Maybe it was, "Last season, in the valley to the east, I found water. And the path has a dangerous tree, go left at the big rock." That sentence contains yesterday, a warning, a recommendation, and a spatial map. No other animal can do that. Not one. That sentence kept people alive who might otherwise have died. Information crossing time. But practically, how did they make words? Linguists think the earliest words followed patterns we can still trace. First, onomatopoeia, words that sound like the thing they describe. The hiss of a snake probably sounded like SSS in the earliest languages too. The crack of a branch underfoot gave rise to words for breaking in dozens of unconnected languages. Second, social sounds, mama, papa. These two words appear in nearly every language on Earth. Why? Because they're the sounds babies make when learning to use their mouths, not because parents chose them. The words weren't invented. They emerged from biology. And third, the most radical way words got made, pure agreement. Someone pointed at water and said a sound. If enough people repeated it, that sound became the word for water. Forever. Words came first. Grammar came much later, and grammar was never invented. It emerged slowly, like a path worn into grass by thousands of feet. When enough people put subject before verb, that pattern became grammar. Not because someone decided it should be. Languages that put words in different orders, like Japanese, which puts the verb at the end, evolved in exactly the same accidental way. There are about 7,000 languages on Earth today, and they all work. They all do the job. Each one is a different solution to the same problem. How do I get what's in my head into yours? Language didn't have a blueprint. It was felt into existence by millions of humans, over hundreds of thousands of years. Let's come back to where we started. You're using language right now in your head as you process these words. And that system, the one running in your head silently, took 300,000 years to build. The next conversation you have is not just communication. It's 300,000 years of evolution in action. When you tell a story, you're doing the thing that no other species can do. When you gossip, and yes, you do gossip, you're running ancient social software, maintaining bonds that keep your tribe together. And when you read a story, or watch a film, or hear a song that moves you, you're experiencing something that a creature with a higher larynx, 300,000 years ago, would never have believed possible. Language went from grunts, to social grooming, to shared fictions, to civilization in that order. And we're somewhere near the end of that timeline right now, watching language evolve in real time on the internet. New words are entering every language every year. Old words are dying. Language is still alive. Emoji may be the first truly universal pictographic language since ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. Language isn't a thing that humans have. It's a thing that humans are still becoming. And we're the first species in Earth's history to be aware of that process happening. The larynx dropped. The brain expanded. The gossip spread. The stories began. And here you are. So, what do you think the next evolution of language looks like? Are we heading toward fewer words or more? Type your theory in the comments. And if this made you feel something about the next sentence you say out loud, That's the point. Every word you speak is borrowed from 300,000 years of humans who figured it out so you didn't have to. History isn't just old stuff. It's the reason your mouth can do what it's doing right now. See you in the next one.